So in the Championship playoff, or the £1 million game as it's been dubbed still, it finished.
Yeah. Forgot about that. Brandon.
It finished Toronto 24, Featherstone 6.
Loads of people got in touch.
Yeah.
The first one of those was... Actually, shall we make a mention of the attendance? Because it was 9,974 was the attendance that's given. But it, for sure, it felt like that, didn't it? All the stands was full, and the beer garden was 12 people deep.
Yeah.
So well done to the Wolfpack and their fans, and for the small band of Fev fans who made it over as well. But yeah.
Well, do you know something? Like, if there hadn't been the problem with the flights, I dare say that'd have been 10,000.
Quite possibly, you're right. Yeah.
There was a large group that were stuck in Iceland, weren't there?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean that's really sad, isn't it? That's really unfortunate.
Yeah.
For those guys who managed to find a way to get there, they thought, and then but their team did them proud. I'm sure they'll feel that. Anyway, right, Josh, we'll start with. He says, "I'm a strong believer in the best team deserves to win. In this game, Toronto were the better team. They won and are getting promoted. I'm excited to see what happens. Worst case, they go bust. Best case is endless. It will have problems, but I'm really looking forward to what happens. Going from the pub with my mate talking about this potential Toronto team to booking flights to a country I have never been to is exciting."
Mark Butler said, "You can't argue with the outcome, and it'll certainly be interesting to see what happens in a Super League season for Toronto, but you can't help but wonder what they're getting for their outlay there. Ultimately, they just bludgeon Fev out of the game as they do most teams, and they always leave you wanting more. Can't help but wonder if they'll have plenty of pain before gain, but job done, I suppose."
Tom Andrews said, "The Rugby League expansionist wet dream has just come true. The quality, in brackets money, shone through in the end. The Super League chairman will be clinking glasses tonight at that extra funding. Personal highlight was that wanker Wilkin getting a slap."
Yep.
That was funny.
David Laura said, "The negativity around Toronto is overwhelming. Challenge your mind, accept change, extend your horizons. Ever-decreasing circles eventually disappear. Negativity will eventually choke our game to death. Congratulations, Toronto. The flat earthers are in meltdown over this. It's hugely entertaining but deeply worrying that so much ignorance exists. Probably explains why Brexit happened there."
EFC 78JU said, "One of the greatest comebacks I have seen in a grand final ever. Fair play Toronto Wolfpack. See you next season for Super League action."
Attila Murphy said, "Praise the Lord and pass the maple syrup. Fev nearly ruined the party and their fans outsang us for the entire game. Basically 10,000 Canadians having a collective breakdown for the 50th minute when the superior conditioning of the home side and fewer games / less travelling caught up with Fev." I think it was the more games and more travelling caught up with them, really. "Everyone was drunk. Fev fans amazingly gracious, and Ralph Rimmer singing Mr. Brightside in the beer garden. Roll on 2020.
And Martin Simpson said, "Despite not being in Elston's top 100, Toronto is now in Super League. The only nerves came from the crowd as the Wolfpack looked confident, even when behind. More off-the-cuff play than I am used to seeing. McDermott also used his bench more than before as Fev started strong and Toronto built into the game. Wallace made a difference. Post-game, I was pleasantly surprised by mostly positive social media." Where was he looking? "It won't be long until Super League team complains about Canadian bacon. Hopefully, the clubs use the additional £200,000 to ease the hardship." Martin must have a fantastic filter on his Twitter. That's all I could say. So, a lot of that talk was about Toronto next year. Let's talk about the game first, Sarah. What did you make of this one? Were they worthy winners?
I think over 80 minutes they were. I think Featherstone started where... Well, no. It felt all along like Toronto were the dominant team and Featherstone managed to score.
Oh, yeah. It was an
almost
incredibly lucky try.
Yeah. That one coming from, the first one was from the Liam Kerr mistake, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I haven't seen him make that many mistakes in Toronto games.
No,
It seemed very consistent for them, and then the fact that he got it down as well, and all that was in it. I think it was Sutcliffe who got it first before Johnson second. So I think Sutcliffe got it down a bit further in than what it looked like when we saw. But still, it was, he could have knocked on every bit as much as he scored the try. It was very lucky, I would say.
Yeah, and then I don't know, for quite a long time it looked like it was going to be another 6-4 result, didn't it? Like last year.
Well, they were defending really well, weren't they, Fev? And I guess that's why Ashton Golding was picked out as our league man of the match over the piece, because he had a huge part in that. There was a lot of goal line moments, weren't there, in that first 50 minutes or so?
Yeah.
Where you thought, do they have the resilience there? Because at no point did I feel like Fev were going to score again.
No, it felt like if something was going to happen, it was going to be completely against the run of play as it had been for that first one.
Exactly, yeah.
But possibly even more so.
Who impressed you then for Toronto in this game? Do we dare give John Wilkin praise on this show? Some of the kind of newer recruits did play quite well in terms of Wilkin and Joe Mellor, but the player that really changed the game was a player that's been there from the start, and it was Blake Wallace when he came on in the second half. He showed a lot more. He showed a running game that I think Joe Mellor was trying to show in the first half, but didn't quite deliver on.
Yeah.
I thought Blake Wallace, obviously he scored a crucial try, had another try assist as well. I thought he was a big factor in this game, running out to a big score. I always thought the Wolfpack would just about have enough to score more than Rovers did, but Wallace, I think, really made it the 20 points difference. He
controlled it, didn't he, when he came on, and just gave them that extra
zip and challenged the line a bit and stuff like that. Yeah,
and
definitely.
I think Fev's defence was only ever going to hold out for so long, and the fact that they couldn't score any more points, they had so little to play with, if that makes sense. Their only hope was to defend more, but they were just fatigued in the end, I think.
Yeah, it was always gonna. You can't, even another full-time side, even a side who hadn't been to France and back, and to Lee and played a tough game, York and played a tough game, even another professional side who hadn't come across that would struggle when a side with a lot of quality is throwing a lot at you consistently and always being on your line, always in your area. It was always, pressure was going to tell, it felt like, didn't it? Although maybe we'll talk about an NRL game where it didn't, but in this game at this level it was going to tell.
Yeah.
What about then the other stuff, the interesting stuff in inverted commas that everyone has mentioned? Historically, you've kind of been a skeptic, is a polite way of saying it, about the international expansion of our competition. How do you see it now that we've seen the Wolfpack dream come true?
I still don't like it. I accept that they fulfilled the criteria set out for them to be promoted, but as a fan who likes to travel home and away, there is no chance I can get to Toronto. It's another match that I can't attend, and I just think that the game's in enough of a mess without then sending it out to another country. I've got no problem with them having their own set up your own league out there, fine, but let's not try and do something across continents.
What if we had 10 Torontos who set up their own league, but we're taking our best players? Would that be better than having one Toronto coming into our league and kind of not taking all of our best players?
I think it depends what you want from the sport.
Yeah.
You know, if your aim for the sport is to have the best players in the world in your local game, then yes, you would want one Toronto. But if you want something that you can go and enjoy and be part of that club, then maybe not.
You've got to be impressed, haven't you, with the crowd and I guess the potential that brings when you talk about an audience and those sorts of things. That's where when you've got people like Josh and David talking about kind of the best case scenario from their point. Obviously, the best case scenario from your point of view is they go bust and disappear. But their best case scenario, there is something there, isn't there? I think it's hard to, at this stage, whilst we can't always love the idea of not being able to travel to all our team's games, and I'm someone in a similar boat to you, wants to go to as many games as possible. That there's still something there, isn't there? That's an undeniable kind of growth that they offer.
No.
No? You don't think it's impressive that nearly 10,000 people turned up to a team that have existed for 3 years when less than that turned up to two teams that have existed for 120 years?
But that is North American sport for you. You know, you get far more than that for a college game. I mean, obviously not of rugby league, I don't think, but
no.
North Americans buy, and Canadians, but that whole area buy into sport in a massive way.
I mean, Toronto's a huge sporting city, for sure. They really back all their teams, don't they? And they've had some successful teams in recent years as well. The Blue Jays and the Raptors. Is it Raptors, the basketball team?
It might be. I'm not
something like that. They've been good anyway. So, because the first time we all really saw the Wolfpack was against Hull FC, wasn't it? At Hull FC.
Yep.
But your views have not changed since then. That's fair enough. That's, you know, we all have different opinions. I'm quite interested to see what will happen, and I don't think that the game's gonna. I don't see what it's cost the game so far for this experiment, I suppose, in inverted commas, because they haven't taken any money out of the game, have they, to this stage?
No.
Yeah. But I think it does. We do have different views, don't we, me and you, on what we see the sport for, I guess.
Yep.
Yeah. It's really. Is it the only sport you really follow? And.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. Pretty. Like. As in, it's the only sport that I would class myself as being an actual fan of a club.
Yeah.
I will happily watch a lot of sports and have interest in what's happening in them, but it is the only sport that I would class myself as being a fan of a club / a player or whatever.
Yeah, because like, I class myself as a fan of a number of teams in different sports, and most of those teams aren't as accessible to me as Rugby League is anyway. So having some games that aren't going to be accessible to me or aren't going to be as accessible to me, and having to watch them on TV and stuff like that, because one of my sports that I follow, I pretty much only get to watch on TV. I don't know, maybe it's that's part of the different mindset. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out logistically and stuff like that, though, isn't it, next year with when they get the games and how they get that going. It will be interesting to see how that all plays out from a kind of curiosity point of view, if nothing else.
Yep.
Okay. Closer to home, certainly, the League One playoff, promotion playoff, which was Oldham versus Newcastle, and that one finished 18-14 to the home side, Oldham. I don't know if you caught any of this one, Sarah. I was not really